You're listening to NGSC Sports Radio. Hear us live on ngscsports.com, where you can get awesome analysis for all things sport. Or check out our podcasts on iHeartRadio, Spreaker, iTunes, TuneIn, and much more. For our latest videos, head to NGSC Sports YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter at NGSC Sports and like us on Facebook. NGSC Sports. We never stop.
From there is a complete ditch, and I mean that's totally up to you, though. I mean, whatever's best, most convenient for you is fine with me.
We'll discuss, but we'll that's kind of what I was thinking of early on here. So that's also what's up for episode 211, not 311 of the
hanging out the speakers.
There you go. Of the Foreign Affair podcast, I am Edward Green, rejoined by McCall in Crime, Wes Bradshaw, and we have a big week of podcasting to do here. We have a Premier League review. We're going to actually start it early. No, we're not going to be doing it every week because stuff will take precedent over that, but we'll at least get the first 5 teams out today. We'll also be doing a Champions League preview for the final on Saturday, as well as a little bit of an EFL Championship Final preview because Wes wasn't here last week to discuss that. We have a lot of news and notes as far as the managerial carousel that is in full swing now. So we'll be getting to that, as well as the Watch 4 and So Raw. As always, we're presented by NGSC Sports and NGSCsports.com. We never stop. Well, Wes, we would normally start with the Premier League, and that's actually what I had put first on the rundown. Let's go ahead, though, and start with our 2 previews. And the first, of course, it's not the richest game in the world, but it is the biggest. And that is the Champions League final between Liverpool and Real Madrid, coming to you from beautiful Kiev. And it's when we think of Europe, the beautiful places, Wembley, the Parc des Princes, the Allianz, Ukraine. Yeah.
Yes. Gorgeous Spain.
Yeah. So
anywhere we could have done this.
Oh, even Istanbul. But no, it's going to be heading to the Ukraine. The talk, I have been keeping tabs. And the talk has been rather strong in favor of Real Madrid. Even Ronaldo coming out and saying it, which I am of 2 minds. Basically, Ronaldo came out and said Real Madrid is the better team. We respect Liverpool, but we're definitely not scared of them, and we should win. And that's kind of the stance most Spanish journalists have taken. It seems. This is one that they've already penciled this one in as a Real Madrid win. Some journalists apparently have even put it in pen. And while I can kind of see where they're coming from on paper, yeah, I can get the Real Madrid thing. They've won the last 2. They've won the most in the world. It's great. They have the second best player in the world. Gotcha. And they were built for this. Really, this is all they have left this year, is the Champions League final. Didn't win La Liga, didn't win the Copa del Rey. This is it for them. But I do feel we're a little quick in dismissing Liverpool's chances in this. I think Liverpool, I don't know that I would call them the favorite, but I think they have a very strong chance in a 1-game set to win and beat Real Madrid here. I think their offense can go blow for blow. I think both defenses are maybe a little suspect. We could see like a 5-4 game maybe. But I think Real Madrid should be favored. They've earned that right. But I don't think it's the walkabout people are kind of expecting it to be. And now for a totally unbiased perspective.
Ed, I'm not going to do what most people think I'm going to do, which is freak out, man.
Yeah.
Not going to do that.
Good for you.
You totally missed my whole Jim Brewer thing going on.
Oh, yeah, I picked it up now.
I did the arms and the weird face and everything.
Which comes across great on an audio podcast.
I'm very, I'm dedicated to my craft.
Very.
Every metric in the world should say that Real Madrid should win this because, they've got the pedigree, they've got the history, the recent history. I believe I read something today. Real Madrid on their squad have 60 Champions League winner medals. Mm-hmm. Liverpool have none.
Yes.
Everything is on Real Madrid's side. They have the experience.
Yes.
And of course, that's the biggest thing of all. You can be total dog shit, but if you've got experience.
What did the now hated Kurt Schilling say that Mystique and Aura are just strippers at a nightclub when it was Arizona versus the Yankees?
The Yankees.
Yeah.
And we remember how much Kurt Schilling holds such a special place in our hearts. He's
trying to rip it out.
As a baseball player.
Yes.
As a member of the Boston Red Sox and Arizona Diamondbacks.
Yes.
But you know what, Ed? The thing is, at the end of the day, you got to play 90 minutes of football.
Yep.
Sometimes you got to play 120 minutes. I'm reminded of another time where a team that had all the mystique, that had all the great players, the all-time 11s, played an unfancy team. It was
Are we going to Turkey?
It was one night in Istanbul, Ed Green, where these very same mighty Reds of Liverpool took on the juggernaut known as AC Milan, which at the time was only boasting such players as Kaká, Paolo Maldini, Gennaro Gattuso, Andrei Shevchenko, Hernan Crespo. Basically, as it was said, an all-time 11. That was a phenomenal AC Milan team. And Liverpool basically had Xabi Alonso, Jamie Carragher, and a guy named Stevie G. And we were given no chance on that night. Hell, we spot them a 3-goal lead just to make it interesting. But as we well know, because we are sports guys and we love our sports, at the end of the day, the best team doesn't always win.
That's very true.
I mean, we've seen, God, just look at our high school stuff. We've seen, the best Rocky Mountain football teams I ever saw couldn't win a state title. Mm-hmm. And then the Rocky Mountain football team that I was like, well, they're pretty good. They won a state title. They get over the hump. We've seen it here in our state, University of North Carolina basketball. The best Dean Smith teams didn't win titles.
Mm-hmm. Very true.
And then the 93 team wins. It's like, oh, well, you have like one NBA player on that team. and they beat Michigan, who's loaded with superstars. Mm-hmm. We've seen it in baseball. When the St. Louis Cardinals won the World Series, barely having a winning record.
Yeah.
I believe that team spirit, unity, and sometimes just blind damn fate have something to do with things. I'm superstitious about things. I get weird sometimes. And I'm nowhere going out and saying, oh, Liverpool are going to roll in this match. But all I can say is don't take what's on paper and just completely count out this Liverpool squad. This is a Liverpool team that we have seen, especially in European competition, that they can go 30 minutes and completely decimate an opponent. Mm-hmm. They are good enough. The thing about Liverpool don't have to play the best 90 minutes. Mm-hmm. Real Madrid can play the best 40 minutes of this match, or they can play the best 60 minutes of this match. And then in a 30-minute span, Liverpool can run 5 by them. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've seen it. They've done it to, they did it to Roma. That's what they did to City. That's what they did to Porto. They did it to Sevilla in the group stages. I mean, this is a Liverpool team that is so damn explosive that I think they're a massive threat to anyone they play on any given day. And they're going to play a Real Madrid team that, yes, do not get me wrong, Real Madrid are excellent. But this is a Real Madrid team that we've seen cracks in this season as well.
Sure.
I mean, they have not been the all-beating juggernaut. I mean, they haven't had as good a season as City. They haven't had as good as Barcelona. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it's just that we've seen this is a Madrid team that can be beaten. Now, they have Cristiano Ronaldo. That's a game changer. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what they call it. They call it that is a match winner. And he's proven it. I believe he's got, is he 3 or 4? I think he's 4 Champions League winners medals now.
At least 3.
Well, 3 with Madrid and 1 with United. I mean, the guy's phenomenal. We know he's phenomenal. He's found his scoring touch lately. They've got Marcelo, who is the best fullback in the world, and is going to be a huge attacking component in this match. They've got Sergio Ramos, who, you know, when you always look at the Champions League final, you notice that the refereeing they kind of let you play a little more. And that's perfect for Ramos because he can break somebody's leg in a heartbeat and not think twice about it. I mean, their midfield, they've got 4 midfielders who I would take over Liverpool has in midfield. But what Liverpool have is a system that everything Madrid have done this year, the Liverpool or Madrid have not seen what they're about to see from Liverpool on Saturday, which is a fast, nasty, athletic, in-your-face press. This isn't the Barcelona press, which is built on positioning and, you know, deft touches and, you know, passing around. No, this is a Liverpool press that as soon as the ball, if they try to play the ball out of the back, you've seen it, we've seen it all year. That is where Liverpool are devastating because of Roberto Firmino, because of Sadio Mane, because of Jordan Henderson, because of Gini Wijnaldum. Those guys create turnovers, and then they've got that dude Mo Salah. And Mo Salah, I believe if Mo Salah can go out, score a goal, Liverpool win the Champions League, and then he can find a way to get Egypt into the knockout round of the World Cup, I think Mo Salah could truly have an opportunity to win the Ballon d'Or. He's had that good of a season. He's done it on that kind of a stage, and he still gets 2 more showcases to go. Salah has been devastating in the Champions League. Liverpool's front 3 have been just amazing. 11 goals each for Salah and Firmino, 9 more for Mane. And not to take away from like a Barcelona, they have Leo Messi, they have Luis Suarez. I mean, there's no taking away from those guys. But other front 3s that Madrid have seen are not built like Liverpool's, which is built on speed and being in your face and nonstop movement. They haven't seen that. Now, does that guarantee Liverpool win? Absolutely not. But it's just that it's going to be a component that Madrid are going to have to adjust to and adjust to quickly. It's going to be very interesting to see how these 2 teams come out of the blocks. You know, Liverpool against Roma, we're content to let Roma have some early possession and try to hit them on the counter. And then all of a sudden, when it clicked, it was a hurricane that Roma had no chance to stop. We saw the second leg against Manchester City, where Liverpool absorbed the entire first half, and then sprung on City in the second half and blew them off the field. We've seen what this Liverpool team is capable of. We said it all year. I said it back in August. I think this is a Liverpool team that's built for tournament football. They're built for Europe. And that's the notion that on any given day, this team is dangerous enough, scary enough, and good enough to beat anyone in the world. And at this point, they've proven that. Over a 38-game season, still got a lot of work to do. But in a one-match or a two-match scenario, they are potentially as good as anyone because they've got Jurgen Klopp, they've got Mo Salah, and they've got a team that believes, a team that feels that it's their destiny to win this, a fan base that feels it's their destiny to win this. And truth be told, to me, Liverpool are playing with house money in this match. They were no one expected them to be here. Mm-hmm. I mean, everyone said, "Oh my God, if they can make a quarterfinal run, that would be an amazing run for Liverpool." And then when they get into the knockout phase, it's if they can make a semifinal run, that would be amazing. But no way they're getting to the final and winning this thing. And then everything's falling in line. They're in the final. You can take the SPIs, you can take the numbers, you can do the stats, you can look at anything you want. When you walk onto the field for a Champions League final, you can throw everything out the window because it just comes down to not always who plays the best that day, but who gets some good breaks and who can do enough to win a match. Mm-hmm. And, when we look at the 3 Champions Leagues now that Madrid have won over the last 4 years, amazing run. They did it twice against Atletico, a defensive-minded team. They did it against Juventus, a defensive-minded team. Mm-hmm. Those were teams that let Madrid have the majority of the possession, let Madrid control the tempo of the game. As you know as good as anybody, Liverpool don't let anyone control the tempo of their game. Mm-hmm. Liverpool play balls to the wall and they go at it. And I believe if they can go out and do it for another 90 or 120 minutes, I think they've got a shot. And, I'm going to pick them to win, but I think they've got a shot. And I legitimately think they can go win this match. And they can lift the European Cup for the 6th time. And with all the shit talk that has come out of Madrid, oh, how sweet it would be to see it happen.
Well, then give us a score.
3-1 Liverpool.
3-1 Liverpool. All right.
Because I also think Virgil van Dijk is horribly overlooked at what he's done since he came in.
Mm-hmm. When I look at this, I do look at this run, and you said how things have kind of fallen for Liverpool, and again, some things have broken well for Real Madrid, but if you look at their knockout stage run, Real Madrid has gone through PSG, and then Juventus, and then Bayern. Mm-hmm. Liverpool went through Porto, I believe was their first round. Yep. Porto, City, and Roma. Mm-hmm. If you look at those two, the harder road would be with Real Madrid. They have also gone through things. The near collapse against Juventus, a very ugly 2-leg match or 2-leg tie against Bayern that they came out on top. And a fairly, even though yes, Neymar was hurt in the second leg when they played PSG, the first match was just dominating. And those were two teams that at the beginning of this whole competition we thought could win the title. And Real Madrid just buried them. It's going to be a great game. I'm scared to death that we're going to get like a 1-1 game that goes to penalties that is just like super sloppy and terrible, and that's my fear. Like as much as we're hyping this up, because this should be 90 to 120 minutes of some of the best football we've seen this season. And I'm scared to death that every time we hype up a match, it ends up being shit. I don't think that's going to happen. My pick is Madrid 4-3 in extra time. I think it is going to be. I think it's going to be crazy. I think each team is going to have chances. I think each team is going to blow chances. But at the end of the day, I think both offenses are that good. You talked about Marcelo. He is going to be, I think, the absolute linchpin. If he is allowed to continue to go forward as aggressively as he has against the rest of the Champions League teams, Real Madrid are going to score a lot of goals. If Mane can keep him in check enough, then Liverpool has a very strong chance. I think it's going to be very close. I think it's going to come down to the last 10 minutes, and I think it's going to be a great match. I think Real Madrid narrowly squeaks by. I mean, like by the skin of their teeth. But I'm going to take Real Madrid 4-3.
And one thing you kind of pointed out earlier, it's not 1-1 going to penalties. Of course, in Klopp's first season, Liverpool made it to the League Cup final, took on Man City, and everybody's, oh my God, this is going to be amazing. And that's exactly what it was 1-1 and went to penalties. in a match that was just simply horrible to watch, really, because you could tell both teams were kind of in this mode of we're not going to lose. Mm-hmm. And there were missed opportunities, and it was just one of those days. And, of course, we have seen those days. I mean, God, I've made a career on this show of saying, I should have scored 6. and you know, that's Liverpool sometimes. And Liverpool aren't taking their chances. Things happen. With Madrid, one other big advantage Madrid are going to have, obviously, is going to be the bench. We know all about the Liverpool injury issues. Adam Lallana is back, played in the last Premier League match, got about 30 minutes on Lallana, which was and he looked like, you know, if he may be able to contribute off the bench. Emre Can is back in training this week. With that, you've got to assume he's going to make the bench for the final. Mm-hmm. So for Liverpool, that at least gives them a little bit of depth, which they've been missing for a while now. But, I mean, you look at Madrid, what they can go on the bench. Mm-hmm. I mean, we don't know exactly what Zidane's going to start yet. But if they go with, let's say, a front three of Ronaldo, Asensio, and who else would it be up front? I mean, maybe Benzema. I mean, basically, you can have a bench. I mean, they're going to be able to bring a bench. Yeah. Let's just leave it at that. They're going to be able to bring Gareth Bale off the bench.
A suddenly hot Gareth Bale, by the way.
Yeah, Gareth Bale who suddenly decided, I think I'll fancy playing some football this year. So, I mean, that's a definite advantage. Once again, I said, 4 midfielders I'd start everybody at Liverpool. I truly think the best player in this match is obviously Salah and Ronaldo get all the praise. I think the best player in this match is Toni Kroos.
Yeah.
I mean, Toni Kroos is, God, if you could give me one player off Madrid, it would be Toni Kroos, and I'd rip your hand off for him. I mean, they've got Modric, they've got Kroos, they've got Casemiro, they've got Kovacic. I'm missing somebody, and I have totally just blanked on the Madrid midfield. Modric, yeah, of course, Modric. Like I said, I know I was totally blanking on somebody. I mean, I think they're probably the best midfield in the world. Right here in the league, just because I don't think their focus was totally there, and Barcelona just had their run and kind of ran away with it. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, yes, I mean, on paper, if you do a combined 11, I mean, maybe 8 of them are coming from Barcelona.
Yeah.
And, I mean, you could probably – pretty much the only one I think who's a nailed got to be in there is Salah for Liverpool. Mm-hmm. You could argue position-wise, you could argue Firmino, and then I think you can maybe argue Van Dijk. I heard one guy argue for Trent Alexander-Arnold. Sure. But, you know, that was kind of an interesting one, just based on that's kind of the weakest point of Madrid's team is that right back position. But yeah, I mean, everything points toward a Madrid win. As a Liverpool fan, all I can do is just sit back and look at the face of Jurgen Klopp and believe, because that's what I've done for 2.5, 3 years now. Yeah, I believe in the guy. We as Liverpool, we believe in the man. He's brought us this far. He's done it without spending a shit ton of money. Yeah, there's still time to do that. This summer is already shaping up to be a huge summer for us. In the market to strengthen the squad for next year. I believe win or lose, Liverpool have had they've had a fantastic season. Mm-hmm. It has been a season that we'll remember forever. Hopefully, as this was the year that Liverpool returned to the forefront in the world, and they'll build from here. But also at the end of the day, you remember lifting trophies. Mm-hmm. That's what you really remember. I remember losing the Europa League final. Don't remember it that well. I've kind of put the match out of my head. But I can just about go kick for kick the 2005 Champions League final. I still watch that semi-regularly. You're here to win silverware. And as we've seen with a lot of teams, you can think, oh, okay, this is our first try. Don't worry about it. Hey, if we lose here, we'll be back. That doesn't always happen. Yeah. We've talked about it, especially, with you being a Spurs fan. When you get your chances, you got to take them. Mm-hmm. Not everybody can be Real Madrid. When you get your opportunities, you got to take your shots. And, Liverpool they're going to live by Omar this weekend, Ed. Come at the king, you best not miss. You got one shot at them. Liverpool are coming.
Yeah.
So,
the last.
I will not sleep now. I'm pumped.
Fantastic. I will say I will end my commentary. You talked a lot about the midfield, and if you are a Liverpool fan, I will throw these two words your way. And I know that when I throw these two words, this was from what was a sort of different Real Madrid team, but I will throw these two words at you. Mm-hmm. Harry Winks. Harry Winks at Wembley back in October, November, whenever Madrid played Tottenham there. Absolutely bossed that midfield around.
Yes, he did.
And as much as I do like Harry Winks, and I think he has a chance to be a very, very good Premier League player, he's not as good as any single midfielder Real Madrid has.
No.
But bossed them around on that day.
It can happen.
Liverpool could absolutely do the same thing.
It can happen. Seriously, I'll tell you this match. I would not be shocked for us to lose 4-1. I wouldn't be shocked for us to win 5-1.
Yeah, it's.
I wouldn't. With Liverpool this season in the Champions League, I'm not surprised by the big score lines. Mm-hmm. I'm not surprised, but also know Liverpool like I know them. I know that on any given day, what we say is any given day that defense can absolutely go to shit. Mm-hmm. That said, I give Virgil van Dijk. You can still call him world record defender Virgil van Dijk. Worth every penny for Liverpool because since he's come in, I'm not saying that defense is watertight by any means. Mm-hmm. We've seen issues still crop up, but this is not the Liverpool of November.
Yeah,
this is not 2017's Liverpool defense. Mm-hmm. And Van Dijk has been so big, and now they're going to face. This is their biggest test. City were obviously a huge test and a huge matchup, but at the same time, when you're playing someone in your league and you're playing someone that you have historic success against, that you know so well, you kind of got to take that into consideration. Here you are. Madrid going for their 13th Champions League final. Team, they've won 12. One of their losses in the final, Liverpool, 1981. The last time these two faced each other in Europe, Liverpool decimated Madrid over two legs. Mm-hmm. That was 2008, I believe, 2008. And I believe we beat them 5-1 at home. This ain't Anfield, but, the word we've heard is Madrid turned back into tickets. Mm-hmm. Both teams, I don't want to get into this too hardcore, but a 70,000 seat stadium, they're expecting 70,000 fans. Each team was given 16,000 tickets. Ooh. What? UEFA, we're not going into this. That's fucking ridiculous. I mean, who deserves to go to this match? Some fucking corporate seat filler who's not going to pay attention, or the guy who's been to 40 matches this year, followed his team around Europe? And I say that for both of them. I say that for Madrid and Liverpool. Mm-hmm. Liverpool are expecting to take 30 to 40,000 to Kiev. They're not all going to get in. But that shows you how excited Liverpool is, mm-hmm. how excited the fan base is. And, you know, there were stories in Istanbul. There's stories at all the places Liverpool have been, how somehow Liverpool fans just seem to show up in the stadium. So I'm not going to be surprised if it happens again. But I expect a very strong Liverpool contingent. I expect them to be loud. I expect them to do everything they can as the I think a lot of people in Madrid are just assuming this title. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people in Liverpool are looking to fight for this title.
I mean, because you could argue, and it's not a strong argument, you could argue that in the last 3 out of the last 4 years they've been, I guess would be 4 out of the last 5.
Right.
This is arguably the weakest team they've played in the final.
Sure.
Not by much, but I think this would be...
Well, I mean, when you look at it, you're talking about Juventus.
Yeah.
There every year, deep in it. Atletico Madrid at that point won the Spanish title one year, mm-hmm. Finished second the next year, and were, you know, a team that had won, I believe they won back-to-back Europa titles, I believe, mm-hmm. under Unai Emery, of all people, who we'll get to later. No, I'll take that back. That was scratch the Unai Emery. Yeah, scratch the Emery. I'm sorry. Had something else in my mind. But still, Atletico had won back-to-back UEFA Cup Europa titles. I mean, they had the pedigree. This is a Liverpool club. Only third time in the last 10 years we've been in the Champions League. Mm-hmm. Second time in the last 10 years we've been in the Champions League. You know, we have a pedigree in this competition, but it ain't been recently.
Yeah.
So Liverpool are going in as, I mean, the huge Cinderella of this match. Mm-hmm. You know, I guess we'll just have to be NC State and they can be Houston.
Oh, boy. There you go. You're NC State now, Wes.
Jesus Christ, NC State shit. I just did that to us. Oh, my God, now we're NC State.
Let's move on quickly. From let's move on from the biggest match of the weekend to the richest match. Quick thoughts. I got into a little bit last week, but it will be Fulham versus Aston Villa at Wembley. Winner comes back up to the Premier League team, or to the Premier League. Wes, do you have a preference, and do you have a pick for which team will be reclaiming their place in the top flight?
Not really a presence or a preference. Excuse me. I don't really have a preference in it. I mean, I'll be happy to see both of them back. Both of them have long Premier League traditions. Mm-hmm. Of course, you know, we've mentioned on the pod recently, Aston Villa are former European Cup winners.
Yeah.
Fulham were in the Europa Cup final in the last decade, I believe. Mm-hmm. So I'm pleased to see one of those two coming back up. I guess if I start looking at it, we also mentioned it's really important for Fulham due to Ryan Sessegnon. Yeah. You know, as in, can we keep him another year, or does he jump to a Premier League squad? Tottenham, I think, are very, very high on that list of teams going after him. Liverpool, of course, are mentioned with everybody. So, Aston Villa, I think Aston Villa are the team that have been built to get to this point, really, because they are a veteran club. Mm-hmm. And they have a really nice mix of veteran and youth. You know, I mean, you got Jack Grealish on one end, and then you've got How'd Your Wives, John Terry on the other end. I'm going to pick Aston Villa. Mm-hmm. I'll pick Aston Villa 2-1. But really, I'll be happy with either one of them coming back up.
Okay. So yeah, that game will be taking place this weekend with the winner joining Wolves and Cardiff City coming back up to the Premier League. All right, now, Wes, we're going to start our Premier League year-in review. We're going to do the bottom 5 teams, and I feel like a couple of these will go pretty fast. So let's we're going to be like Drake. We're going to start from the bottom, and then Detroit's going to get swept by Cleveland. West, I got you again, Drake. Let's start with the 20th place team, West Brom. Just not a very good season. Changed managers multiple times. Alan Pardew could not save them. 31 points, 6 wins, the fewest in the Premier League. Scored only 31 goals. That was a third worst, in the Premier League. And you know, this was a team that had been fairly mid-table. They'd made some moves, but just nothing really clicked. They even started the season pretty well. Won their first 2 matches out of the gate against Bournemouth, and then went to Burnley and won, which is something that not a lot of people did this year. So after that, it all fell apart until their slight resurgence at the end of the year, where they beat Tottenham and Newcastle and United and drew Liverpool. So they started well, they ended well, but the middle was just complete and utter trash fire. So unfortunately, the Hawthorns will no longer be part of the Premier League next season. But Wes, this was, well, I don't think anybody would necessarily have picked them. This isn't also the strongest roster we've ever seen go down by any stretch.
No, not at all. You know, West Brom, 6 weeks ago, this was the easiest grade ever.
Yeah.
And then Darren Moore suddenly became like the second coming of Alex Ferguson.
that is the one shining light for them going down, yeah.
And give credit to them, they did the man. You know, there was talk, well, you know, maybe like, no, hire the man who everyone's like to play for. I mean, I know we've seen that in the past and it didn't work, but hell, you know what? After that run, he certainly deserves the opportunity. They were a solid F all season.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have to leave them with an F because, once again, I mean, this is a team that in the preseason when we were talking about, thinking West Brom was going down. You know, I mean, you had the newly promoted team. You had other teams that, you know, people took issue with. But for West Brom, it was always, they'll finish 12th. You know, they're fine. Like I said, I want to take out the last 6-7 matches of the season when Darren Moore was in charge because that was a solid A- job that he did. But Pulis and Pardew, man, they sucked. They stunk it up. And no matter what Darren Moore did by the end of the year, they are where they deserve to go down. They get an F on the season.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. Give them an F. And I believe I will go ahead and spoil it. I'm giving every Premier League team that got relegated, they're getting an F. Stoke is the 19th place team. They are also getting an F from me. The worst goal differential in the league at minus 33 were absolutely abysmal away from the Bet365, going just 2 wins, 7 draws, and 10 losses. Although almost as good as Arsenal did on the road. But you know, Stoke also had issues. Paul Lambert tried to come in and tried to save them. He could not. And you know, West, you know, we talked a little bit about West Brom and how they don't have that many great players, although they do have Jay Rodriguez and had a very unremarkable loan spell from one Daniel Sturridge. But, you know, Stoke is someone that did have Sheridan Shaqiri. They had Peter Crouch.
Well, actually, don't forget Sturridge. Sturridge went to West Brom.
Yes, no, that's what I meant. That he went to West Brom with Jay Rodriguez. Sorry. But yeah, you look at this Stoke lineup again with Crouch and Berahino and Sheridan Shaqiri. And guys like Jeff Cameron, who now looks like he's coming back to MLS, and guys like Ryan Shawcross and Darren Fletcher. These are pretty name people. Jack Butland, of course, has been someone who's been in the English keeper lineup for a while now. This was a bit of a surprise, I think, that a team with this many names and with this I will say a level of quality is going down. They had some cast-offs, like they have Kurt Zuma and Glenn Johnson as defenders, but overall, this, especially when you consider some of the other teams that are staying up, like, with all due respect to Huddersfield, I don't think Huddersfield is better than Stoke. So I am giving them, based on what they should have been and how they turned out, I'm giving them a solid F. And I'll be very interested to see how many of these pieces get picked off now that they've gone down.
Well, and see, that's the thing. You always expect when teams get relegated, players who, stay up and, end up leaving and signing with other teams, because these players, that a lot, especially the better players, they have these clauses in their contracts where suddenly, hey, if we get relegated, I can go for a low price somewhere, and those are your bargains. I think out of everybody who got relegated this year, Stoke is by far going to be the one who's going to have to lose, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, Shaqiri ain't playing the championship. Jack Butland is not going down to the championship. And that tells you something, too, where Jack Butland is wanted by 6 teams, and this was the team that gave up the most goals in the league.
Yeah.
Which, that's always one of those catch-22 situations. Well, if we had a better goalie, if we had a better defense.
Yeah, and, we kind of saw that last year from Jordan Pickford when he was at Sunderland.
Exactly.
They were terrible, and Everton bought him for a gigantic amount.
And the guy's going to be the number 1 in the World Cup for England. So.
There you go.
But, those guys are going. Those guys are going. There are other guys who are not going to be staying at Stoke. There has been a story come out that Joe Allen said that he would stay loyal and stay at Stoke for a year in the championship. Joe. But Joe Allen could easily find another Premier League team to play for. I think Stoke's probably going to have the most attrition off that team. And that kind of is also damning of them because, man, that means we had some really good Premier League players.
Yeah.
I mean, right now, I think a lot of teams in the top half of the table would take Xherdan Shaqiri.
Mm-hmm.
In a heartbeat, I think a lot of teams in the top half of the table would take Jack Butland.
Yeah.
I mean, there are players on Stoke who are going to get out and be okay next year. But once again, that's somewhat damning of the season. Mm-hmm. Excuse me, that they put together. Solid F.
Yeah, this just
can't redeem Stoke.
There really isn't, but hey, Charlie Adams going down, so that's good. If there's any ray of light on that, and finally,
he started going down about. So,
the 18th and final relegated team was Swansea. Same number of points as Stoke. Slightly better overall. They did pick up 8 wins. They did have a chance at the end of the season to save it. If they could have beaten Southampton at home, they did not. So their last match didn't really matter. But Wes, this is one of those. Swansea was a team that a couple of years ago we were thinking, hey, this is a team that could, maybe challenge for European placement in the Premier League. And then they basically got rid of everybody. Not too unlike the team that finished barely above them. But this is just very disappointing how quickly Swansea unraveled over the last couple of years. The manager who was there and was very good, and I have forgotten his name now.
Brendan Rodgers?
No, not.
Carvalho?
No.
Of course, Bob Bradley.
Yeah, that one. And that kind of does speak to, I think, a little bit about Swansea's problems. They had this one gentleman who I believe came right after Brendan, and had them playing pretty well. And then they got rid of most of their talent, Wilfred Bonnet among them. And then they sold off their best players. They didn't rebuild from within, and now they're going down. So, again, not like Stoke, I think, when you look at their squad list here, not the same level of talent there. There are decent players like maybe a Leroy Furr. The Ayew brothers, Wilfred Bonny back on the team now. Lucas Fabianski's an okay keeper. There's not a ton, though, that I think could potentially jump back up. But I'm still giving them an F, especially from where they were a couple years ago to how far now they've fallen. And obviously, Swansea, a team that should still be shooting to stay in the Premier League.
Well, and don't forget, too, Swansea's a team, they won the League Cup.
Yeah.
I mean, back in, I believe it was 2013, they won the League Cup. Mm-hmm. Of course, when they go, they're since coming up, Brendan Rodgers got them back in the Premier League. Did a good job. Michael Laudrup did a good job. He's the one who won the League Cup with them. You got to take into consideration. This is Swansea. You're not expecting to go win a shit ton of games. Gary Monk did a solid job.
And that's who I was thinking of earlier.
Yeah, Gary Monk. But then Francesco Guidolin, Bob Bradley, Paul Clement. None could get them out. Paul Clement did a good job to keep them up a year ago. Mm-hmm. But then he's gone by December this year, or 2017. So, just this point for Swansea. This what you were saying about possibly challenging for a European spot a few years ago. Swansea was supposed to be what Burnley has become.
Yeah.
The team. Because you remember when Swansea come up, this is the team. They figured it out. They know what they're doing. Mm-hmm. And they did for a while, and then they just kind of lost their way. I think when they fired Michael, Swansea just kind of got caught up. Man, things aren't going. Manager. Mm-hmm. I thought Laudrup had done a really good job for him, and they let him go. Gary Monk did a good job, but still, I thought after letting him go, they kind of hit their skid a little bit, and they've just never been the same since.
Yeah.
And they wanted to play this. They wanted to play beautiful football, which they were doing under Laudrup. And then they just kind of got caught up in this. And to play survival football in the tiki-taka.
Yeah.
It is to play blood and guts, do whatever we can to get a point, win at home, get a point, do whatever the hell you got to do. And that's what keeps you in the bottom half up in the. Mm-hmm. So, Swansea, they just kind of ran out of luck. And then they had back Wilfred Bonny. Mm-hmm. And he just sucked.
Yeah.
He's past it. His legs are gone. He's really, Bonny had a good year and a half for Swansea. Turned that into a huge contract at Man City. Mm-hmm. And just haven't been shit since he went.
Pretty much.
So, now that said, I think Swansea's a team that can, out of all three of the teams that went down, mm-hmm. I think Swansea could do the bounce back really.
That's true, and even though Stoke is probably a better roster, how many people are they going to lose?
Yes, right now, right this second roster. It'll be interesting to see too who leads Swansea. Alfie, mm-hmm. After the season he had playing center defense, he's found a lot of admirers around the league. So they're gonna lose some players as well, but I think Stoke's one that can make the bounce back. Maybe next season immediately, if not within a couple.
Mm-hmm. Well, that takes us to one that's not going to have to make the bounce back, although they're going to have to do a much better job bouncing back next year as they stay in the Premier League. And that is Southampton, the 17th place finishers with 36 points. Wes, this is, again, a team that, the previous season, they were in Europe. This isn't a team that we're talking about Swansea. They were challenging for European spots, and they got one through their League Cup route. No, this is a team that was in Europe, but piece by piece by piece, they just chipped away at every piece. Thank you, Tottenham and Liverpool, that made Southampton what they were, and eventually they just stopped being able to replace it. And look, it's still a pretty good roster. I'm going to give them an F. Because I still don't think they were this bad, or that they should have been this bad. You still have guys like Ryan Bertrand, who is probably going to be leaving after this year. You have guys like Nathan Redmond, Deucin Tadic, Charlie Austin, and Shane Long, guys that are pretty damn good players, but they just couldn't put it together enough. Obviously, Fraser Forster in goal, a former potential top choice to be England's keeper of the future. And
really, by the end of the year, Fraser Forster job to Alex McCarthy. So
yeah,
Alex McCarthy's pretty dead. Showed he's a pretty darn good goalkeeper.
Yeah. So this is a team that again should be better than they are. This is not a team that should be fighting for its Premier League life, and I'm just worried that will the trend continue? Like, if they lose those couple guys I said, like a Bertrand, like a Nathan Redmond, who are they going to get to replace those guys? And that's what I'm really worried for about Southampton, is this just seeming downward trajectory they're on. They were the toast of the Premier League. They were doing things the right way, and unfortunately, they just haven't been able to keep it up. I'm giving them, even though they survived, I'm giving them an F on their season.
We can't talk about South. It's kind of like their minor league team sometimes. I think Southampton made a really bad strategical error last summer when they kind of dug their heels in. Mm-hmm. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that Liverpool, which would be great. But I think when it comes, now I'm also not a person who says, well, you know what, if a guy wants it, just keep him, screw him, put him on the bench. I'm not that guy either. I think you've got to take each of those situations case by case. Mm-hmm. I think you've got to look at it as more than just, okay, hey, what can I do to replace him? I think you've got to look at things like, what's it going to do to team morale? Mm-hmm. How's it going to be in the locker room? How's it going to be on the practice pitch? I don't think very many Premier League caliber players, I don't think very many of them down skills. Mm-hmm. I never thought that Virgil van Dijk took plays off for Southampton. Let's put it that way. In matches. Mm-hmm. But obviously that wound festered all throughout the first half of the season. I mean, there's no doubting that. There's no denying that. Van Dijk was pissed that he didn't get his move. He won his move. They dug their heels in and said, over our dead bodies, are you getting him? And then to top it off, Van Dijk had some injury issues. He had some fitness issues early in the year. But I just think that when they turned down Liverpool trying to come and get him, suddenly they found a player who was not in his situation. Mm-hmm. And it was on a team where that player had so much clout on the field that it really came back to bite him. Contrast that with, say, what Liverpool on their end did with Philippe Coutinho. Coutinho, after the mysterious back injury cleared up, Philippe Coutinho put his nose to the grindstone, went to work, and had a fantastic first half of the season. When Klopp then realized that it was another situation to try to keep him, he sold him. They got the most money they could get, and they sold him. Mm-hmm. I really, really think now, I've had no problem from Southampton digging your heels in June. Uh-huh. By August, they should have realized this is not going to end well for us. Yeah. By August, the prices had all shot sky high. They could have gone to Liverpool. Now, here's the thing. They held on to it, and they probably made an extra £10 million in the long run, but they also just about torpedoed their entire season because of it.
Yeah.
Was that worth maybe an extra £10 million? They could have sold him to Liverpool for $65 million, let's say, in August. They would have had. Then you've got that money. You go in, you invest during the summer, which I don't know if they actually reinvested any of that money back in January.
Mm-hmm.
So you would have given yourself a chance. Okay, we lose, but we can still go out and bring in a player or two that's going to help us for this big money we've got. Instead, they left themselves in a really bad situation with their best player not wanting to be there. Everybody didn't want to be there. And then I believe as it went down the line, not so much the Van Dyke effect anymore, but when you get into a funk, it's hard to break out of that funk. Mm-hmm. And I just think Southampton were in a season-long funk. I'm going to give them a D- for the simple fact that when it came down to their survival on the line, they were able to pull at Swansea. Mm-hmm. Huge road win. I'm going to give them that. I thought when I believe it was Claude Puyol.
Yes.
When Puyol came in, I thought he did a pretty good job with the hand he was dealt at the time. And once again, Southampton, just like we were, sometimes it doesn't matter what's on. It matters what, the intangibles matter. Mm-hmm. And that's where it just totally fell apart for Southampton this year. It wasn't that they were bad on paper. It was all the intangibles kind of fell in on them. And they're going to have to pay. They're going to pay for it here in the offseason. I think they're going to have a pretty decent-sized shakeup. They're going to have some guys going out. They're going to have guys coming in. I think Southampton can definitely rebound. Don't get me wrong. I think it's a good organization. But as you also said earlier, we knew sooner or later it was going to catch up with you when you sold your best players every year.
Yeah.
And unfortunately for them, once again, the Van Dyke situation, I think this time when they should have gone ahead and sold that player, holding on to the player for too long actually ended up cutting you. So, yeah, I think they were almost in a catch-22 situation. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I do believe I think that was a really big one, was kind of the saga that surrounded Van Dyke for about 6 months.
Yeah, very unfortunate, just to have that kind of cloud looming over your entire season like that. And even sort of stretching back to last season, I believe, I believe he didn't play in one of their last Europa League matches. The relationship already wasn't good. So to hold on to him through the summer was a bit surprising and nearly made them pay for it in the end. But a team that, I think is the first team. I'm not going to give an F to this on this stretch. And our last team we'll go over today. That is Huddersfield. The David Wagner machine keeps on keeping on.
Not an F for Huddersfield.
No. This is somebody or a team that if I look back on here, both of us had finishing dead last. Yeah. So already better than that, than we expected them to do. Did have the second worst goal differential in the league. Did score the joint fewest goals in the league. There are definite areas this team needs to get better. But to go to Chelsea first of all, you get a draw at Man City, and then you win at Chelsea in back-to-back, you drew at Chelsea. I thought it was a win. They drew at Chelsea in back-to-back matches 4 days apart to save their season. That is a hell of a tough team. And that is something that will serve them well going forward. They have to get better. And for that, I'm not going to give them like a super high grade. I don't think they played very good football a lot of times this year. There were times where they did, but a lot of matches they looked like they were really struggling. I'm going to give them a C+. You might give them a better grade for staying up, and I'm totally okay with that. But they while staying up was their main goal, and yes, they did achieve that, they didn't look that good doing it. And I think a lot of teams kind of collapsed around them to help them out. So they will definitely have to improve next year to stay up again. But still, you stayed up this year, goal achieved. I'm giving them a C+.
the fact that we both picked them last, and I think probably nearly every expert who covers this sport in the world picked them to come in last, to me shows what a fantastic job that David Wagner and his Wischens did this season in. I mean, you're looking at a team that, I mean, really right now at the top of my head, I can't name a single player in that squad.
Yeah, I can't either.
The only guy I know is David Wagner. And the only reason we best friend.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be real.
Yeah.
I mean, that was
he's
like
American.
Yeah, he's sort of American.
Yeah.
He's American with the thickest German accent I've
We'll
heard.
take it.
No, 90% of the preseason was spent on Wagner. Oh, he was Jurgen Klopp's best man at his wedding. That's all we heard. Oh, he was with Klopp. They came out playing a Klopp style of football and got some early points, which turned out obviously to be massive.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody says, "Oh, it's only August." Well, you know what? If I get something in August or September, fuck yes.
Mm-hmm.
Any points I get are huge. Huddersfield are the small Premier League. They have the smallest ground money. They basically survived because Wagner had a really good feel for the market from Germany.
Mm-hmm.
And he was able to go to some of those lower tier German teams. They got some good loans from Germany. They bought some. And that's what did it. Once again, you can't look at it on paper. Stats don't always tell the story. They took some thumpings this year.
Mm-hmm.
That was the biggest thing, was to get 2 points from City and Chelsea were massive points. Obviously, they kept them up, but the champions, one of them's last year's champion.
Yeah.
And for little tiny Huddersfield to do that, I thought it was amazing. I'm giving them a B+ because, with them, Ed, you can talk to one-name technical producer, Jack, if you want. I am grading on the because, once again, this is a team that should have finished last, not get relegated, should have finished dead fucking last. And they didn't even finish 17th. They finished 16th, which means there were 4 established Premier League teams that finished below them.
That's true.
I think Huddersfield is going to be prime candidate to go down next year.
Yeah.
I'm already probably going to pick them last again. But I thought the job they did, that's just, man, you're not going to get guys coming to Huddersfield.
Yeah.
Once again, he's going to have to really pull some magic out of the hat to do something there. But man, all we're talking about right now is 27, 28 Huddersfield plus because they just shot the world and stayed up. So give it to them, Huddersfield. Great job. Great season. It's going to be an interesting season DVD to watch.
Yes, that win over Manchester United looms large.
There you go, man. Just got the job done. That's all you can ask.
There you go. So that's our first Premier League review of the season. At some point, we'll be doing teams 15 through 11. Then, as is customary, we do 10 through 7, and then we do 6 through 1.
Usually we try to get 6 through 1 done before the first.
Yeah, about a week to 2 weeks before the season starts.
Because that's all you want to talk about then is last.
Exactly. All right, well, as we move on a little bit here, we do take a look now into the news and notes. Real quickly, we're going to run through some of these. We'll hover a little bit over this one though. Unai Emery, Wes, it's not often I look at my rundown when I get in on Wednesday to finalize everything, and I have 2 articles with 2 different managers saying that they're going for the job, and that's what I had because I had one article saying Mikel Arteta was going to be the next manager for Arsenal, and I had one article saying it was Unai Emery, and now we know it's Unai Emery. This kind of was a bit of a twist in the narrative. Arteta looked to be the favorite, but Emery at the last minute looks like he came in and kind of took it. The joke was on Twitter, Arteta asked the board for, some, conciliations about the players he gets, wage structure, discipline, and Emery just came and said, "No, I'll just do it."
Sure.
So why not? So Unai Emery is the new Arsenal manager, coming over from an oddly failed stint at PSG, and yes, it is considered a failure.
It's failed when you win the domestic.
Yes, winning only a domestic treble, not enough at the League One leaders. Obviously, didn't get past the first knockout round in the Champions League. The year before, did not win the league, which I know if you're not that familiar with Ligue 1, you're like, what the fuck? But it's no.
Mm-hmm.
No, he won the domestic treble this year, and that's kind of like the floor. That's what the minimum, the bare minimum PSG should be doing every year in that league. So quite frankly, it wasn't enough. Now, of course, this comes after he had won 3 straight Europa League titles with Sevilla. So it's a bit of an interesting shift in how he was able to handle that. It never really looked like he had a good handle on the Neymar situation. I don't know many managers that would have, but now he's coming to the Premier League. He's going to have sort of another type of player like that in I know your favorite, Mesut Ozil, that he's going to kind of have to deal with. So, what did we say? You don't want to be the guy that replaces the legend. You want to be the guy that replaces the guy who replaced the legend. Emery is Arsenal's David Moyes. Wes, will he suffer a similar fate, or will Emery thrive in the Premier League?
To me, it's all going to come down to the Arsenal expectations are.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, Arsenal, out of the big 6, Arsenal are by far the weakest.
Mm-hmm.
They're in the weakest position. And here's the thing. I mean, they've been told, the management's told, you don't have that much money.
Yeah.
We're going to give you £50 million. You know what? You get like a Man City defender.
Yeah.
And they need so much more. It's going to be interesting to see the outs with Unai Emery coming in. There's Danny Welbeck is in negotiations to go to Besiktas.
Mm-hmm.
There's a very good chance Jack Wilshere's not coming back. Per Mertesacker, of course, is gone. This is going to be a different look.
Mm-hmm.
And part of it's going to be because the way this team is built, you can't go into next season like they are right now.
Oh, absolutely.
But, unless he can swing some deals and get some guys big money in, I just don't see where they're going to have that much to really try to reshape this squad. And you look at Unai Emery, this is a guy who, at Sevilla, he did a really good job. But now, he's coming from a job where, he was given the keys to the Rolls Royce and wrecked it down the street, basically. Unai Emery is not a guy. He's not pretty much any say in player personnel. And like you said earlier, you mentioned with Mikel Arteta, that's one of the big things is, Arsene Wenger for so long had been in charge that Arsenal wanted to go completely the other way. And when Arteta started saying, well, I'd like to say in player personnel, well, hold on, that's not what we're looking for. And like you said, Unai Emery's coming from a situation where he had no say in anything and just went out and did it. Emery, don't get it twisted, he's a good coach of football teams. I mean, you don't win 3 straight Europa League titles at Sevilla without being able to coach.
Sure.
And truth be told, I think he's going to bring a long overdue overhaul of what this Arsenal team does. You know, Arsenal, they play beautiful football, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what they had kind of turned into in a as Eleanor Roosevelt was quoted as saying, speed, hot, nasty speed. That's a Talladega Nights reference, probably. That's kind of what the Premier League has turned into, speed and physicality. And you had Arsenal over here still trying to play, you know, beautiful football where it was about all these little things that Arsene wanted them to do. And, you know, Arsenal could still score a gorgeous goal here and there. You know, we've seen them over the years where, you know, there's 6 passes, none which touch the ground and end up as a goal of the season. But you know what goal of the season gets you? Gets you a pat on the back and a Happy Meal somewhere. It doesn't mean that you're going to win shit because you can score pretty goals. Arsenal had completely lost their toughness, their grit, their spine. They thought they were getting it with Xherdan Shaqiri. Instead, they just got a sociopath in midfield. Unai Emery plays a much Premier League-based style. They're going to come out. They're going to press. They're going to play the high line. Yeah, they're going to look a lot more. You know, his vision of Klopp, Pochettino, Guardiola group, than obviously than what Arsene Wenger was. So that could be an improvement for Arsenal. But the thing is, he's also sitting now on an unbalanced squad. Why does he not have money? Because Wenger spent £100 million basically on 2 strikers the last 2 seasons in a mold where he doesn't use 2 strikers. You know, Unai Emery is not a guy who 2 guys up front. That's not what he's looking to do. It's an unbalanced squad. Mesut Ozil is always going to be this flair player who, you know, as soon as you talk a ton of shit, 2 assists he had this past week, well, that's fucking great. Let's see what he does in the next month and see if he shows up for any of those matches. Emery could have his hands full. I don't think Ozil, you know, when we talk about comparing Ozil, Neymar and everything, I don't think he has anyone who Neymar. Because I just don't think there's many players that exist on Earth that have that kind of attitude. Yeah. But, you know, you do have Mesut Ozil who and looks disinterested. You do have Aubameyang who raised the stink to get out of Dortmund. There are some players like that on that squad, and it's going to be interesting to see what the players know he's not the one who wields the ultimate power. And, you know, now, don't get me wrong, but I also think that your manager needs to be involved in the recruitment of players. He needs to be involved in the shape and the organization of what the team is doing going forward. You know, when you, and I know I turn everything into Liverpool talk, but you know, that's what I know. You know, so much has been made about Liverpool that they've got a group that will bring players to Jurgen Klopp. And they're like, hey, these are guys we think are good. We think will fit in, will fit with you. But Jurgen Klopp has the final say in bringing in a player or not. You know, once a fee, obviously, you know, we're not talking the money part, but does this player fit? There's been so much made about the now famous meeting with Klopp, where you sit down with Jurgen Klopp and he gets to know you and he decides from the meeting, are you going to fit in on this team? You know, are you going to come in and be a diva, or are you going to come in and do what you need to do to help you better? And I think a manager has to have say in it. Pochettino has say in the players that are brought in. And that's not to say, obviously, Mourinho has a lot brought in. This is one of the things that Conte had massive issues with because he wasn't given that, and you see what happened. But I think the manager has to have a say. I mean, I'm not saying he's the people. Obviously, one of our favorite commercials ever was, Wenger trying to talk down $1 cents. Bosh. But, don't let the guy do the business, but let the guy have somewhat of a say, as in, man, I don't think I can work with this player.
Yeah.
Then why are we going to bring him in for huge money and force you to play him? So, I think Arsenal, out of the big six, I think they're still the sixth best team. And I don't think it's that close. Now, obviously, Chelsea have a big hire coming. Do something. But when you look at the top four right now, I mean, the top four, unless Pochettino decides to leave, no one in the top four is going nowhere, manager. They are set. They know who they've got. They know. That's the top four teams taking your Champions League spots. I don't think Arsenal or Chelsea right now are in. Man, we can just hop right back in that top four next season.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Emery will come in. The problem with Emery is, once again, he's following Wenger.
Mm-hmm.
And I've said it many times. You brought up after the legend, because at that point they're like, "Shit, get us back on track." I think Unai Emery is a better hire for Arsenal than David Moyes was for United.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think Emery has a long shelf life at Arsenal. I think maybe 2 years.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot different after seeing what the rope Arsene Wenger was given for that long at Arsenal.
Well, and I mean, especially the fact that City are ready to spend, Liverpool are ready to spend, United are ready to spend. Sounds like Pochettino wants to be ready to spend. We'll see what happens, Daniel Levy. Pull out your checkbook. And Chelsea are going to try to back whoever this new manager is. There's going to be movement in the top and the five above them.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think the top four right now have a real chance. A, if Liverpool can take the next step. B, if Tottenham can keep that squad together.
Mm-hmm.
And add. I think the top four has a chance to solidify for a few years coming here.
Mm-hmm.
So, trigger happy on the coach, and I think Arsenal were too set in stone for too long. So I think Arsenal, for what it is, I think Arsenal.
It's going to be an adjustment process for Emery, his first year in the Premier League. With a very, very interesting fan base, shall we say. Speaking of interesting fan base, with another man that has actually won the Premier League, Manuel Pellegrini. He's back, lads. He's back at West Ham, taking over for Moisey. That name keeps coming up. So there you go. Manuel Pellegrini's back. He won the league.
I'm going to tell you, you seem underwhelmed. That is fucking hell of a hire for West Ham. I mean, you think about it. Who does?
Yeah.
They get fucking Moyes or Allardyce or Slaven Bilic. I mean, they get no one with any real ambition. Pellegrini's won the Premier League. He's won twice. He's won titles. I think in actuality, man, I think West Ham did literally as well as they could getting a new manager. You weren't getting Ancelotti. They weren't getting Luis Enrique. They weren't getting Thomas Tuchel. They weren't getting one of those guys.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think West Ham did about. I mean, because you think about it, we were just talking about Premier League. Pellegrini knows what he's walking into.
That's fair. Yeah.
He's been through the wars and he's come out on top before. I don't think he's the be all end all of managers. Mm-hmm. But for freaking West Ham, I think it's a hell of a hire.
Well,
we'll revisit this when they're in.
Yeah. I'm a little more skeptical, and I just don't think that team's very good. So I don't know how much better this makes them, but I guess I'm also just more surprised that he took that job. But
Well, now one thing, West Ham will pay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. We talk about why would you go to a mid-table Premier League team when you could go to upper mid-table Spanish team? Because those mid-table Premier League teams have money than those Spanish teams, or those Italian teams, or those French teams. Outside of a small handful of those teams, everybody in the Premier League has more money.
True.
So, I mean, it's a chance to get the good pay. And I think after this season especially, I think West Ham are in a situation where I think their board realizes, we can't just keep doing the same shit over and over. I mean, we had fucking pitch invasions this year because the fans hated us so much. Now, I'm not saying they're going to go break the bank, but I think they're going to be in the market to spend some money this year and try to improve that squad. And at least there's no reason with at London Stadium. Did you know that West Ham plays at London Stadium now?
No.
Seriously. Whatever happened to Upton Park? With that revenue, with the money they bring in, West Ham should be a upper mid-table team.
Sure.
They should be challenging for those Europa.
They were 2 years ago. Yeah.
They were, and they have been in the past. But with their resources now, especially with the money the Premier League brings in, with their new stadium that they've gotten, they need to take a step forward. And I think this is a good hire. And I think this could be the basis that gets them into being a pretty consistent upper mid-table team.
All right. Well, we'll be definitely checking on them and seeing. Nobody likes fighting a fiery striker like Manuel Pellegrini. Marco Arnautovic. It's going to be fun. Two people who will be looking for new jobs. One mentioned earlier, Paul Lambert, who will not be retained by Stoke, as well as fellow relegated club Swansea. They have gotten rid of Carlos Carvalhal. So 2 new managers will have to be stepping in to take over those teams in the championship. And our final little news and notes is one last bit of managerial news. This one coming out of Italy, though. Carlo Ancelotti. Some people thought he might go to PSG. Some people thought he might come back to Chelsea. Some people even thought maybe Arsenal. He's going to Napoli. He's taking over for Maurizio Sarri, who left earlier today. Ancelotti took over them, took some pictures with their club president, Aurelio De Laurentiis. They did one in a weird James Bond type pose. That was kind of odd. But he signed a 3-year deal with them. And hey, this is, you talk about a guy that has pedigree. Obviously, Carlo Ancelotti, one of the highest pedigrees, especially a club like Napoli can get. Someone who can, this is a team that's been in the top 3 in Italy the last couple of years. Now looking to finally get them over the hump and dethrone Juventus from their top spot they've been in for so long now. He's one of only 2 men ever to win the Champions League or European Cup 3 times as a manager. Wes, who's the other one?
It's our lovely Bob.
There you go, Bob Paisley. And he's won league titles in 4 different countries. So, Wes, this may also mean Sarri is eventually going to be making his way to Chelsea. That could be the case. Again, if Antonio Conte is even gone, we don't know. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But this is I think a great hire for Napoli with Champions League football next year. This is a great hire for them.
I agree. Just a lot of little pieces around here that we're going to hit real. With Ancelotti going in, also the next question for Napoli. Napoli are one of those teams. They had a great, and now all the transfer talk is how everybody clean with their players. So, great season. Had a chance to finally dethrone, couldn't quite get over the hump. who's going to be left next year? Jorginho's
maybe
the
a
big
guy
name.
like Ancelotti keeps them there, though.
Ancelotti could help in keeping guys there. Now, also, I'll say this. I think if Ancelotti's taking this job, trust me, he's not stupid. He knows that a lot of players, I think Ancelotti's been given promises, hey, you lose, we're going to spend some money and bring in players.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to bring in Carlo Ancelotti and drive with nobody to play.
Right.
So it's going to be an interesting summer for them to see who stays and then who comes in. There's an interesting story. Basically, he has a £7 million buyout right now to leave to go to another. Chelsea are already looking down the barrel of having to pay Antonio £9 million if he decides to sit out next season.
Mm-hmm.
They're already looking down that barrel. They didn't want to pay another $7 million. There's a rumor that that could actually lead to David Luiz making his second Chelsea exit and being somewhat of a make weight to go to Napoli, and that would give Napoli the ability to reduce the fee. So that could help Chelsea there. Sarri's name is definitely bouncing around that Chelsea job, still as is Luis Enrique.
Mm-hmm.
And once again, you look at Napoli. Italy is one of those leagues that they're somewhat like Germany in a way, where the top dogs, be it Juventus or the Milan team, they like to go in and pick players off of the hot teams in that league.
Mm-hmm.
And there's already talk that, a couple of guys off of that team could be going to Juventus, one or two going to one of the Milans. Apparently, Marek Hamšík, who is the captain for Napoli, has announced that it's gotten out. He's going to China. So they're losing him. They're going to lose him for still. I mean, these are integral players, parts of this club, who are pretty much on their way out. And now with Ancelotti coming in, manager, they're in the Champions League next season. So that always helps. Football, you'll find players and bring them in. Don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we could be looking at a much different Napoli team next year than what we just watched this year, which was a great team this year. Really, really top team. They're not going to look like that next year.
Yeah, it's going to be rough, especially with them heading into the Champions League next year. Again, from Italy, one of these clubs, they're not Roma, they're not one of the Milans. It's another club that's trying to challenge Juventus, and good on them. But unfortunately, it does look like, what are they going to be able to bring in? Hey, Tottenham Hotspur has a guy that if you'd be willing to pay for him, I'm sure could bolster your defense even more than David Luiz. Just saying. He's Belgian.
Yeah.
Anyway,
that's it. I think he wants a much bigger pay.
Yeah, it's fine. Italy has money. So that's gonna do it for news and notes on the week. I told you we would get Wes Bradshaw's thoughts on England's roster last week. We'll wait for next week.
Trust me, it ain't gonna change.
Yes. Captain Kane. All right, let's hit the watch for. As we hit the watch for, we ask the question as always, Wes, what have you been watching in the week that was, or the week that will be?
I'm trying to work on it. It's been over the last week or so, but just getting back into watching some things. I'm watching the remix of Arrested Development season 4.
How is that?
It's making much more sense.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, it's flowing a little better than the first time. I'm keeping up with it a little better this time. Still funny as shit because, it's Arrested Development. And season 5, I think, is dropping next week on Netflix.
Yep, 5 days from now.
5 days, so definitely something to look forward to there. That's kind of been my big thing this week. I feel like I watched something else, but damn it, I cannot remember what it is at this point. It's been a long week at the Bradshaw household.
All right.
Which I don't think you know the full reason why.
Oh, fantastic. Well, I tell you what, we are as we hit the end of May here. A lot of our shows wrapping up. One that, as I mentioned last week, could have had its season or series finale this past weekend, ended up only being the season finale. It's the 9-9, Brooklyn 9-9.
9-9!
Yeah, I love it. Wrapped up its season. Have you seen the season finale of Brooklyn?
I have not. I think I've got 2 sitting in my DVR right now.
I will tell you this way. When there was that scary 24 hours when everybody thought it was canceled, and it was, and then they got saved. And people were coming out on Twitter, the show's creators were like, yeah, we didn't write the season finale to be a series finale, but if it ends that way, then it'll work out okay as a series finale. And I was like, all right. So me and the girlfriend, one named technical producer Jackie, we watched that season finale a couple nights ago. And let me just tell you, if that had been the series finale, I would have been a little pissed off. And it wouldn't have been until just literally like the last 5 seconds of the episode. Just throwing that out there. But a great episode. It's wonderful. It's touching. This is not a spoiler. The last episode is Jake and Amy's wedding.
We knew it was coming.
Of course, it's been building the entire season. But just tremendous episode, and the return of Cheddar, who is just American.
Cheddar,
we love the dog. Just a great dog, amazing dog. So it'll be you'll enjoy it very much so. But we'll enjoy it for another season at least as it moves to NBC. And finally, to end my watch for Saturday night, also one named producer Jackie and I took another trip to the Cineplex. As we have been lately. This was not a rewatch of Infinity War like I saw Wes Bradshaw did a couple weeks ago. No,
I've now seen it 3 times, by the way.
Oh my god!
I had to take the boy to see it.
What did he think?
Somehow, this 13-year-old had avoided all this.
Wow.
Well, if it's not on Fortnite, then he basically doesn't know what it is.
But Thanos is in Fortnite.
Yeah, but I mean, he still didn't know the damn stories. So yes, he had the same. When everyone started, spoiler alert.
Yeah.
When everyone started disappearing at the end, he got look as the rest of us. He said, "What the hell is going on here?"
It's just like when the Shield broke up.
No, he didn't cry this time, so that was nice.
Well, that's good. But no, we did not go see Avengers: Infinity War. We went and saw another comic book movie, a little more of an R-rated movie.
Did you break down that 4th wall?
We busted it down and jizzed all over it. It's Deadpool.
I was about to say something nasty.
I went ahead and did it for you this time. God. I will say this. I didn't think it's as funny as the first one. I think it's very, very funny. Don't think it's quite as funny. It's like 96% as funny as the first one. I think it's a better movie than the first one, by far.
And of course, we're talking about Deadpool 2.
Yes, that is what I'm talking about. It is. I think it's a very, 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 very good movie. And as I don't know if you've heard, maybe the best mid-credits scene ever. Because not only does it make this movie better, it retroactively makes other movies better. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's
well, I'm planning to not in the next week, but the week after. Yeah. See, I got to get this thing called money and time.
Yes.
A lot of times I'll have money and no time. No, Deadpool is definitely on my to-watch list.
It's very good. Very, very good movie.
And never forget to, sequel, especially when you get a super comes out of nowhere. Yeah, I always go back to the original, which is like the most infinitely quotable frat boy movie of all time. You know, everybody just died. So when the second one came out, you know, everybody goes in with this expectation that, oh my God, it can't ever be funnier than the first one because I'm surprised by it. Mm-hmm. So, you know, with Deadpool, the first time we didn't expect from it. Second time, we have expectations. So, you know, nothing ever truly.
Yeah. I will say not quite as funny. Like again, still a very, very, very funny movie.
And that's what matters.
And it is. It's a great funny movie and some really, really good action sequences in this movie. So, just wow. Can't wait for X-Force. It's going to be fun.
Speaking of men in tights doing action.
Oh, no, I was going to say, wow. I actually made a WWE reference earlier, and I don't remember what it was now. But, hey, Dick Punch. Let's get so raw.
Dick Punch! Finally, 1 week that they didn't Dick.
Well, that's because they have to start saving... They have to save all those for when they move to Fox, Wes.
Oh, man. Huge news. In 2019,
yes,
Smackdown Live is going to be moving from Fox. That's right, folks. Fox. The big one.
Not Fox Sports 1.
Network. Yeah, apparently not Fox Sports 1. Apparently Fox. Now, that said, with that, it does sound like there is going to be a schedule change on it. Mm-hmm. This has not been confirmed. There is rumors that it's going to go to Friday night, which isn't always the greatest time slot. But you know, one thing that's going to be really big about this, I mean, you're going to be seeing WWE advertising during the World Series.
True, yeah.
You're going to see WWE advertising during NFL Sundays, which, of course, you and I have no need to watch. But apparently a bunch of other people still watch. Even though after the latest ruling, it might not be quite as many.
Yay.
But anyway, it's the NFL. You just continue to implode and upon yourself.
It's great, and I'm loving it. But continue.
But it's going to be a mega deal, basically, for WWE. And that also comes with a big deal that they're going to be renew Monday Night Raw and USA. Mm-hmm. Also, this week we've been told, you know, we had talked a little bit about that they were going to start doing the dual branded pay-per-views again. Mm-hmm. We weren't going to get the solo branding. Now they appear to be turning the regular pay-per-views in, which we'll see. You know how I get with that. That said, if you've got two shows, you should be able to for a slot.
True.
WWE. And then for the big ones, they're going to turn them into WrestleMania will still be a 63-hour show. Never fear. Nothing changing with that.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what's happened outside the ring this week in WWE. I mean, just it's really, really big business news. We'll obviously, when the time comes for all this stuff, we'll obviously talk more about it. But I mean, I think it's really cool that you're going to be able to turn on like regular network television and see WWE programming on there. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it almost harkens back to the 80s, the early 90s. NBC would show Saturday night's main event, which would come on after the local news. Mm-hmm. Which, I mean, God, how freaking cool is that? You know, you watch the news and then, and on those, you were always getting like Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant. It was great. Macho Man. So, WWE, big dealings this week. As far as programming goes, Raw. Wow, somebody needed to call Dr. this week. That's an old reference, but you know, it was a rough Raw. It was, the word I heard used was, it was maybe the most. They were trying to force so much stuff into that time slot that it's like a lot of it just didn't make sense what they were doing. It doesn't make sense on a wrestling term. And not only that, it had the segment of 2018. It goes down in the annals of This Is Your Life, Bailey, which was probably 2017's worst thing. This was a chat with Bobby Lashley's sisters, who he happened to mention in a tape promo a week or two ago about his sisters he grew up with. And Sami Zayn came out with 3 males dressed in drag, claiming to interview them as Bobby Lashley comes out. Predictably, all 4 of them jump Lashley, and then in true WWE style, Bobby Lashley beats up 4 people. Oh my, the dialogue was maybe some of the worst shit I've ever seen. I mean, WWE does this like once or twice a year, where they will trot out just something that's so fucking horrible that no one on earth can actually enjoy it. So, and Bobby Lashley continues to look like just shit. And it's not really his fault. It's just everything they're doing with him is crap. Oh, Raw is bleh. Raw right now is not quality. We're now living through a Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns is now trying to just blame WWE upper management for every single thing that happens.
Sweet.
I mean, it's like okay, guy, and basically he's turned into a whiny teenager who says, "Well, the only reason I can't succeed is because you won't let me." Even though we all know that they want Roman. This does not work, WWE. It doesn't work. Got to turn Reigns heel sooner. It's got to happen. That dude is born to play a heel. Anyway, I digress. Couple little interesting things on the night. I thought there was a solid Braun Strowman Finn Balor match, which was kind of fun to watch just because, I mean, Braun Strowman's is literally as big as a house, and Finn Balor's like the size of a pubescent teenager. Not that small, but I mean, still, you've got like 6'8" Braun Strowman. It's like Finn Balor. That was kind of fun. That was a pretty good match. They did some different stuff. God dang it, Drew McIntyre and Dolph Ziggler, which I wasn't really looking forward to that team coming in together. Man, they've been really good. They've got kind of this, if you remember the mid-'90s, Shawn Michaels Diesel feel to them, where it's kind of like Drew McIntyre bodyguard almost. And I think everyone's buying in on this, but now they need to actually make it matter and put it in a real story, because that's just where we are right now. Is they're just like, okay, you've introduced them. Now give us some meat. Make this mean something. I think if they do that, they've got a really nice little something on their hands on Raw. So we'll have to see what happens there. We're getting a Ronda Rousey title match at the next pay-per-view. Interesting. And I can't really figure out where this is coming from, because Ronda Rousey has wrestled a match in WWE. Yep. Match. I don't think she's quite ready. Nia Jackson carry a match. I think there could be some shenanigans that go on with this. The only thing that's built it so far has been Stephanie McMahon, of all people. You know, we're happy to see Stephanie McMahon because she's kind of pushing. She's kind of pushing the buttons here. And they had a contract. She did a pretty good job of it. So I give that to Steph. And I do look forward to seeing what they can do, but I'm very skeptical of what's going to happen there. Smackdown, on the contrary, was really good this week. Smackdown gave us some really good stuff. We are leaning up at the next pay-per-view, which is, let me pull up my pay-per-views real quick. I'll tell you what it's going to be. It's coming up in June. It is actually June the 17th. It's Money in the Bank. Money in the Bank is shaping up to be a really good pay-per-view, in spite of what Raw is doing to us for whatever reason. We're looking at AJ Styles, Nakamura, and they have turned it into a last man standing match.
Oh.
Last man standing match is a block match. That means that's a match that ends because after last man standing, where else can you really go? Mm-hmm. That means that you knock your opponent out and he's down for a 10 count and you've got to keep him down to win. We finally got away from some dick punches and just saw them go after. So I've been tepidly excited the entire time for Nakamura Styles. I think this is the match that can deliver.
Okay.
It's got to. I mean, if it doesn't, it's because WWE. Because we've seen these two we've seen them make magic together. Mm-hmm. If it can't happen, it's because WWE's not letting it happen. Another big one we've got going on Smackdown right now is qualifying for Money in the Bank. We had one of our best matches we've seen on TV in a long time this week. Daniel Bryan versus Jeff Hardy, which are two fan favorites. Two guys who are really super over with the crowd. They had a really good match. It's a second chance to get into the Money in the Bank match. Mm-hmm. Daniel Bryan ends up beating Jeff Hardy. Joe next week on SmackDown, and the winner gets into the Money in the Bank match. Ooh. Samoa Joe, Daniel Bryan have 11. They did it was way back in Ring of Honor stuff. They were phenomenal together. Now, 11 years later, let's see what can happen. But I'm going to tell you, Daniel Bryan has been red hot since he came back. He's working a smarter style where he's not, looking to be paralyzed every match, but he's still working his ass off. And Samoa Joe's just a fucking badass. And Ed, the great news about that match will be on SmackDown next Tuesday. SmackDown originates from Raleigh, North Carolina.
Oh, my God.
And your beloved co-host, Wes Bradshaw, is planning to be in attendance for SmackDown. So I am really super duper looking forward to getting to see Samoa Joe versus Daniel Bryan in person. Super looking forward to that. But overall, man, SmackDown 2, really good show this week. They finally did something with Gallows and Anderson. They look really good against the Usos. The Miz and the New Day are in the middle of something that a lot of people think it could be leading to the breakup of the New Day. Which, basically a faction that's been together for 4 fucking years that New Day's been together?
Jesus. That's as long basically since we've been doing this podcast.
Yeah, since we've been doing the pod, basically it's kind of been the entire timeline. Yeah. But there's a lot going on. There's going on in figured it out. Raw needs to tighten it up. Raw's one of those, man, they have a place. It's just right now they don't know where to put it. Don't know where to put it right now on Raw. Mm-hmm. That's weird, man, because that is such a good roster. So much talent. But right now, SmackDown's just doing a little better job. So I'm looking forward to seeing SmackDown Live next week myself. I will not be sticking around for 205 Live because I don't watch those guys. Vince McMahon would love me. But
of course.
Anyway, that's this week's So Raw. Next week we'll see what happens next week.
There's always next week. And there will be another episode of the A Foreign Affair podcast next week. Will it be a joyous one or a very sad one? Well, Saturday, I guess we'll decide that.
I'll see, man.
So
this is it, folks. This ends the club.
Yeah.
And then we go into the wilderness of no football.
Yeah. The wilderness of like 2 weeks.
So basically an international break.
Yeah. And then the World Cup will start, and then the International Champions Cup will start, and then the Premier League's back. So this will be very, very quick timing.
Seriously, before you can blink, it'll be back.
Oh, God. But that is going to do it for this episode of the podcast. Again, Champions League final, as well as the Football League Championship playoff final between Fulham and Aston Villa are both this weekend. Check them out. Check out our podcast, as always, presented by NGSC Sports, ngscsports.com. We never stop. You can find them on Twitter. You can also find us on Twitter at AFAPod. Wes, you are?
I'm at Wes Bradshaw21.
I am at Edward Green. You can also find us on YouTube, youtube.com/The All News Sports Show. You can also email us at that address, allnewsportshow@gmail.com. Thanks so
Shit,
much.
I just thought about what my other watch for.
What?
We'll do it next week.
Okay, that's fine. Big thanks to our podcast providers. Not shit I just remembered, but others, including Podbean.com, Stitcher, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, the TuneIn Radio app, Google Play Music, if that's what you're still called by the time this airs, or your YouTube Premium now, who knows, and at the iTunes Music Store. So again, we'll be back next week. We will be dissecting in length the Champions League final. We'll be telling you who wins the championship final. We will possibly do teams 15 through 11 of our Premier League wrap-up, and then start looking ahead to Russia 2018. But that is going to do it for episode 211 of the Foreign Affair podcast. Before we get out of here, Wes, is there anything you want to add? Do you want to go ahead and tell us what that watch for was?
Yeah, sure. This is the most Macclesfield shit ever.
Oh, boy.
So on TLC this week, a called Our Wildlife.
Oh.
Our Wildlife. I think that's what it's called. It is about the Abrams family, who, yes, owns Abrams Barbecue.
Oh.
They have a zoo at their house.
Yeah, I remember you told me about this.
5 minutes from me. And they now have a reality show. So, Ed, I have lost my status as Fields.
I can't believe this is on TLC.
I've been usurped by kangaroos, and apparently I'm just. But one of my favorite people in the world, Miss Janice Mercer, a.k.a. Nana, has a starring role in this show. So I'm all good with my girl, Miss Mercer, being.
That is really weird.
Well, check it out. I watched part of the first episode. They go to the Piggly where I used to work. They go to the local nail salon and yep.
Oh man, that sounds great.
And let's just put it this way, folks. There are stereotypes about. They live up to a lot of them.
You should ask them if they would like to sponsor a little podcast about soccer.
Sir, I think unless we were talking about Marsupial Weekly.
Maybe we would have to. But that is going to do it for McCall and Crime, Wes Bradshaw. I am Edward Green. Thank you so much for joining us again. And as always, please stay safe and enjoy the football.
Good night, Pine Tops. There's a fucking wolf nearby now.
What the fuck?
There's a wolf. Jesus.
Like just a wandering wolf?
No, he stays in the house.
Wait, they have a wolf?
They have a wolf at the zoo. Don't watch the show. It's hard. I know it's hard.
You're listening to NGSC Sports Radio. Hear us live on ngscsports.com, where you can get awesome analysis for all things sport. Or check out our podcasts on iHeartRadio, Spreaker, iTunes, TuneIn, and much more. For our latest videos, head to NGSC Sports YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter at NGSC Sports and like us on Facebook. NGSC Sports. We never stop.